How do startups navigate ethical dilemmas? Imagine building a new business from scratch and facing a tough choice that could make or break your reputation. That's what startups often deal with in the fast-moving world of business. When a startup grows quickly, it can encounter situations where what's profitable clashes with what's right. For example, a small tech company might be tempted to exaggerate how well their app works to attract investors. Or a new clothing brand might consider cutting corners on labor standards to lower costs. These are common ethical dilemmas that test a startup's values and integrity. In a capitalist system, competition pushes startups to innovate and grow fast. But it also relies on market forces like reputation and consumer trust to keep everyone honest. That means startups need to find ways to balance making money with doing the right thing. Many startups start by defining clear core values early on. They create a mission statement that emphasizes social responsibility or environmental care, not just profit. This helps guide decision-making when tough choices come up. Transparency plays a big role too. When startups openly share information about their sourcing, labor practices, or environmental impact, they build trust with customers and investors. For example, a startup that discloses its supply chain details and commits to fair labor standards shows they care about integrity. This openness encourages consumers to support ethical companies, which in turn rewards good behavior with loyalty and sales. Accountability structures are also vital. Many startups set up advisory boards, conduct regular audits, or seek third-party certifications to ensure they stick to their ethical commitments. These checks help catch issues early and show stakeholders that the company takes responsibility. Investors, especially those in venture capital, increasingly look for startups that prioritize ethical practices because they want to minimize risk and protect their reputation. Practical steps for managing ethical dilemmas include reviewing practices regularly as the company grows, training employees to recognize ethical issues, and creating safe channels for reporting concerns. Engaging with stakeholders like customers, employees, and community members helps startups understand what matters most to those they serve. Sometimes, startups need to adapt their business models to reduce negative impacts, like switching to eco-friendly materials or improving labor conditions. Sometimes, ethical choices conflict with short-term financial gains. For example, a founder might consider inflating product capabilities to secure funding quickly. But this risks long-term damage if customers find out or if legal issues arise. Capitalism rewards innovation and risk-taking, but it also punishes dishonesty through lost trust, legal penalties, or investor withdrawal. Ultimately, startups that embed ethical principles into their core strategies tend to build stronger, more sustainable businesses. They grow by earning trust and loyalty, which are key to long-term success. Addressing ethical dilemmas head-on helps startups create value not only for shareholders but also for society. By making responsible choices, startups can thrive in a competitive market while staying true to their values.